So we are moving. So your son is here. Yeah, fantastic. So we're now moving over another 2 inches again to Sriman Krishna Kisore Das, who he's 17 years old. Hello, Prabhu. Dandavats.
Krishna, Dandavats.
Dandavats. He got initiated by Gurudeva in 2010. So by my calculation, that's when he was 6 years old and very young. And he's been translating books from the Hindi to the English as seva. So, and you've been living in India since you were 11 years old, right, Prabhu?
No, since I was 6.
Oh, since you were 6, sorry, for 11 years. Yeah. So we're very grateful. We've never had 3 people in the same family giving Pushpanjali one after the other. So you're the final but not the last. The last but not the least. So we're very much looking forward. Welcome, and please offer your Pushpanjali, Prabhu.
Namam Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namine Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudakshan Audarya Madhurya Gunesha Yuktam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Twang Shiraso Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanincha Shri Krishna Padabjuditai Karidhi Chaitanya Lilamrita Sarasaram Narayanam Tam Shatatam Prapatye Namam Vishnupadaya Bhaivav Chandrika Prishtaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Kamal Govindam Iti Namine Pancha Kalpa Tarurvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I first of all offer my unlimited obeisances unto my Harinam Guru, Pujapad Srila Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupada Sotashata Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, and second of all to my Diksha Guru, Nitilila Pravishtam Vishnupada Sotashata Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Goswami Maharaj, to our beloved Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Bhaktisanta Saraswati Thakur, and to all our acharyas. It's really hard to speak about Srila Guru, an exalted personality like Srila Gurudeva, especially after so many devotees who have been with Srila Gurudev, that served him or that accompanied him for so many years, and then it's my turn to glorify him. It feels a lot of pressure. So sorry if I commit any offense or any mistake. I will try my best to give a small Pushpanjali into the lotus feet of my Gurudev. As my mother was saying, I first met Srila Gurudev when I was 1 year old in here in Vrindavan in 2005. We came here for the Vrajamandal Parikram with my 2 older brothers and my mother and father. We spent a month here, and of course I was 1 year old, so I was too small to remember anything. And then we met him in 2008 in Canada. And I remember that when we met him, my mom, she told me to go and stand so I could take a picture with Srila Gurudev. And as a kid, we in Canada, we always used to watch the Indian TV shows and about the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, all of this. They used to come in an Indian channel. So I thought I was Lord Ram. And Gurudev had come to a Ram temple, a Hindu Ram temple. So what I did is that I went and stood like in a place that I could be with Gurudev, like in the picture, and then I hold my arm up, like holding my bow and giving my blessings. So I was trying to impersonate Lord Ram, and when I was small, I just did it like because I thought I was, playing like Lord Ramachandra. But then as afterwards, I started thinking that it's interesting how Srila Gurudev, as a kid, he was a Ram Bhakta. They always the devotees always describe how his father, he was very devoted. He was very devoted to Lord Ramachandra, and how throughout all of his childhood he used to go to the different Ram Kathas, and he would especially cry, and he would start crying through all of the kathas, listening especially to the parts where Sita Devi enters back into the earth, or different pastimes where separation is prominent. And it's like a little connection that makes me feel like, oh, okay, well, at least I am my Gurudev. Well, Srila Gurudev, of course, he had this pure devotion for Lord Ramachandra, but I didn't have that devotion. It was more like maybe something Mayavadi or something. But like, it's like a shadow of what he had. I do not have many experiences with Srila Gurudev, so I will try to repeat some things that I've heard from other devotees about him, or some things that I've heard through tapes or classes from him. And one of the things I wanted to say is that how much the devotees from other sanghas or even other sampradayas appreciated Srila Gurudev and his life work, all of his contributions to this path of bhakti, no? Like, for example, on the day of the centennial of Srila Gurudev at Gopinath Bhavan, many Gaudiya Vaishnavas from other Gaudiya Mats, and even Premdas Shastri ji came, and a few other Kathavachaks from the Sri Sampradaya, Pushti Marg, everything. And they all, especially, even he was appreciated everywhere. Srila Gurudev, because in Braj, not many people know about the Gaudiya Mat. The Gaudiya Mat is more something that's spread in Bengal and then by other branches in maybe Punjab, but the Gaudiya Mat in Vrindavan, they mostly know them, oh yes, the Bengali Babas in saffron, but it's not such a strong impression here in Vraj. But if you ask about Srila Gurudev, then all of the Vrajavasis, especially the Vrajavasis from Vrindavan and Mathura, they all know him. And they all have a deep sense of respect and love in their heart for him, because they all, Srila Narayana Maharaj, he's a pure Pakka Vaishnav, Vrijavasi Vaishnav, and he's Rasik. So they all know how Srila Gurudev was inclined towards those moods in Braj. And we can see how Srila Gurudev, his heart was in Vrindavan. He was always trying to renovate the places here in Braj. He was so enthusiastic and taking all of the devotees towards all of these places in Braj that are filled with gems. He always used to say that all of you are so lucky. Indra, Brahma, all of the other demigods, they're praying for get one speck of the dust of Braj, and all of you devotees are getting dust inside because you're all breathing it in, and outside during the parikram. So it is incredible how what Srila Gurudev gave us was the highest things. For example, one of the stories of appreciation my father just reminded me of is a story that once in the Seva Kunj. To begin with, Seva Kunj is they're affiliated to the Radha temple, and the Radha temple, they're quite against the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But once the Pujari of the Seva Kunj, he had a dream in which Srimati Radharani came to him and told him that take my prasad to Srila Narayan Maharaj in the Mat of Rup Sanatan, and he's very dear to me. So the Pujari immediately he woke up and he went and took the prasad that's offered after Mangalarti, and he took it to Srila Gurudeva. And at that time, Srila Gurudev's servants wouldn't let him come into his room, and he was like, please, this is very urgent. I need to give this prasadam to him. So at the end, they let him in, and he said that, he gave his dandavas to Gurudeva, and he said that Srimati Radharani told me herself that I should give this prasadam to you. And even today, if you go and ask that Pujari about Srila Gurudev, he always tells you this story with so much affection and so much respect for him. Also, for example, one of the other things that all of the Hindi-speaking community of Vaishnavas in Braj appreciate are his books. They say that Srila Gurudev's greatest contribution were his books, because all of those books, Ujjwala Nilamani, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Madhurya Kadambini, all of those books were not so easily available with bona fide translations, but Srila Gurudev, he made them available for all of the Hindi-speaking Vaishnav community, and well, now they're being made available in English also. And they are in Hindi. There's simple yet very sophisticated language. It's not a language that you need to be like so highly educated to understand, but it's still very pure and very beautiful. Because Srila Gurudev, many devotees recognize him for being being very focused on his Hindi preaching, being focused on like the Sanskrit aspect of Hindi. Another thing is that Srila Gurudev often was criticized for being too rasik and speaking too openly about subject matters that were preferably kept hidden and secret. But the other day I was listening to a tape of Srila Gurudev saying that, what am I saying? He's giving classes on Upadeshamrit in Badger, California. And there he says that I'm repeating what Swami Maharaj has said, because he's reading out of the Nectar of Instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And he is saying what Srila Rupa Goswami has said. He said, Swami Maharaj is describing what Srila Rupa Goswami said. Srila Rupa Goswami only described it in a few lines in Sanskrit. And Srila Swami Maharaj gave 10 pages. So does that mean that Swami Maharaj is saying something different than Srila Rupa Goswami? And he says, of course not. He said his words, and they may be different. Sometimes they may be the same. But the goal of his words and the aim, they're one. He said, so in the same way, I may sometimes repeat what Srila Swami Maharaj says with different words, sometimes with the same words, but the aim and the result, they're the same. He says, I'm not saying anything that he said, sometimes I say, Narayan Maharaj, he speaks too high. He says, I'm speaking what's given in the books of our acharyas. He said, Srila Swami Maharaj also spoke about these things, but he spoke them in a little hidden manner. I'm just explaining what he has given. And then there he goes on saying that many times people say that, Narayana Maharaj is a sahajiya. But who is a sahajiya? Person that even after chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra keeps company of women or there he says that, or women who chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra keep the company of men, or have still material desires, or are running after money and fame, they are sahajiyas. That is the definition that Srila Prabhupada gives of a sahajiya in the fifth verse of Rasamrita. So then he says, who are sahajiyas? Me or the persons who are saying that I'm a sahajiya? And he starts laughing jokingly. So, like I don't know if she said, my mother mentioned about being strong as lions.
Yeah.
So, if we cannot be if we cannot be strong as lions, then at least we should know that we should be like in this song of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There's one song where he's singing that, oh master, tumi amar ami tomar kukur, tumi amar thakur, that I'm your dog and you are my master. I want this feeling of, because the dog is loyal, he's faithful to the master, and if a dog, he won't do anything against the wishes of his master. And if somebody comes and starts comes in a bad mood to his master, he attacks him. So we must have this feeling as a dog that we know that, well, even if a small puppy, if somebody comes and speaks against the words of our Gurudeva, if somebody speaks against the character of our Gurudeva, we should be bold. And if we cannot be lions, then at least we should be cats and dogs, barking and trying to roar against these other people who are trying to offend our Srila Gurudev, because our master, he is impeccable. Nobody can judge the character of our Gurudev. He was such a high-class Vaishnava. Sorry, sorry. I'm having a little bit of trouble. I'm getting nervous.
Take your time, Prabhu. It's great. It's beautiful. We're really appreciating it. Take your time.
Yes. For example, one of those stories of his boldness was once in Gokul Mahavan. Srila Gurudev had come with the Brajamandal Parikram there. And there the pandas, you know how they are, they stop you and they make you wait outside of the door, and then they take you all at once. They charge money, they put you the peacock fan on the head, and then they take you out and they say a few words that, oh, Krishna was born in Mathura to Vasudeva and Devaki, then he was brought here to Nanda and Yashoda. So when Gurudev, once Gurudev stopped all of those, he gathered all of those pandas and he said that, where was Krishna born? And they said, well, in Mathura. And he became very angry at them, and he said that, how can you call yourselves Brijabasis if you think that Krishna was born in Mathura? He said, Krishna was born in Vraj, and a true Brijabasi would never think that Krishna was born in Mathura. Krishna appeared with his 4 hands and his 4 symbols, this mace, the lotus flower, the conch shell and disc, and Mathura in the prison cell. And then he turned into a small child. But here in Vrindavan, he was born from the womb of Mother Yashoda, and there was a umbilical cord cutting ceremony, the name-giving ceremony. Here he was born as a child. So and all of Brijabasis know this. So a Brijabasi would never think that Krishna was born in Mathura. So imagine how bold he must have been, that he goes into the temple, a temple that's controlled by these pandas. And anyone who lives here in India knows that pandas are not, sometimes they can be very nasty. And starts chastising them in public with microphones in front of the whole public, saying that they're not true Brijabasis because they don't know proper Siddhanta of Tattva of Krishna. So this is one of the examples of how Gurudev would never compromise the truth, and he would always be strong and forward as a lion. And he always also was very strong on this point of Guru Nishta. Srila Gurudev used to say that Guru Nishta is the backbone of bhakti. And if we do not have Guru Nishta, then our bhakti will be all wobbly and we won't be able to continue on our path. So I pray that one day Srila Gurudev may give me that strong Guru Nishta, that no matter what happens, like this is something that Srila Bhakti Santa Saraswati Goswami Thakur said, that even if the whole world would stand against me to say something, to give the interpretations of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur saying, oh, he meant this, then I would gladly fight against all of them, because I know that if that was wrong, because I know that the how do you say, that Gurudev is with me, because if I am carrying his words, protecting his words. So I pray that one day I can have that mood of surrender, Sharanagati, and also of Guru Nishta in my heart, and that slowly, one day he can give me his mercy and to be able to properly glorify him and properly understand him.
Regarding this point, I also want to say that Srila Rupa Goswami was advised by Satyabhama in a dream in Satyabhamapur about the difference of Brajendra Nandana in Vrindavan and the pastimes of Krishna in Mathura. And this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's something that also Gurudev preached very nicely, and he got so much opposition in ISKCON, and still today there is no understanding that the Krishna of Dwarka or Mathura doesn't use a peacock feather or play the flute. And this is in Srila Prabhupada's books, but still is not understood. So much that in Los Angeles they call Radha Krishna Rukmini Dwarkadish, and when Gurudev appointed this also, they were very upset. So it's a very important point, and Srila Rupa Goswami, when he was doing Vidagdha Madhava, and got Satyabhama to told her that do not try to take Krishna out of Vrindavan. So that's only one remark about it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Kishore Prabhu, thank you. I tell you, if you're 17 years old, and to me, watching you, it represents to me the hope of the future of Vaishnavism. If the brothers and sisters of in Vaishnavism at your age are like you across the world, and I know actually quite a few of them are, then there is such a bright future for this beautiful movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what was in my heart listening to you is, I really feel like Gurudev wants you to preach a lot, because I think you're going to be a wonderful preacher. And I was noticing how your father couldn't hide his pride as he was listening to you. It was beautiful to see. And also, can you please arrange or encourage your siblings also to give their Pushpanjali?
They are very shy, I don't think they...
The shy ones are the best. We have to work harder. I have one shy one. She's been trying to get away for 3 months, but I'm not going to give up. I've got another, we're on 23, so I've got another 41 to go. I'll get her in the end. Please stay there, Prabhu, because we'd love you to close out the kirtan at the end of this program, if that's possible, because we know you're a lovely kirtanier. And also, I forgot to mention that you took Diksha from Srila Bhakti Vedanta Kamala Govinda Maharaj. And I wanted to really say to you how beautiful he is. And I wanted to share a little story, a very short story with you about him, because he came to London. There's lots of funny stories with him. He was very mischievous, actually. He could capture hearts like Gurudev. And he wasn't meant to stay with me, but he was so popular, especially amongst Gurudev disciples, that the place he was staying was so small. They asked, could he please stay with me? So he ended up being with me for a week. So we formed this lovely relationship. And anyway, a few months later, he called me from India, and he said he had this like lovely way of speaking. Yashodanandan. He was long. He'd say it very long. Yashodanandan. You haven't called me, he said. And immediately I said, no, Maharaja, I haven't called you because I'm afraid of you. I was afraid of him because he was so attractive and so stealing your heart. Like Gurudev, I felt that if I came too close to him, I would never come back. Amazing. So you have amazing association there. And a really interesting perspective, because you've lived in Braj for so long, and you have that, like, I come in as an outside Westerner with my rose-tinted glasses. It never occurred to me that the Gaudiya Mat wasn't a big thing in Braj. That was really, really interesting what you said there. And yet Gurudev is so widely appreciated. And actually, one of the things that Gurudev, I imagine, is hugely appreciated for is that he always, every year, had a 4-day disappearance festival for Rupa Goswami's disappearance day. So we will be having a Zoom version of that later this year. And Prabhu, your father is very warmly invited to speak at that because that will be a very important event in our calendar. And you mentioned, Prabhu, something about the Sanskrit, that Gurudev was known for the Sanskrit angle of Hindi. I just wanted you to explain what you meant by that. That was very interesting.
Sorry. Well, Hindi is a language that it's very new, you could say, from the historic point of view. And it's still, you could say, in its development. I mean, it's always changing, and it's got influenced by different languages in the areas that it's spoken. Like in Vrindavan, they mix it with Brijabhasa, and nowadays it's mixed with Farsi and other Arabic languages because of the Muslim occupation of India. So with the pure Hindi, it's spoken really, really rarely. Not everyone speaks pure Hindi. Like, in Hindi they called it Shastriya Hindi, like traditional culture Hindi.
Yeah.
And Srila Gurudev, he wanted that his books be like very pure Hindi, no?
So the closest Hindi there is to Sanskrit, basically.
Well, yeah, all of the terminologies and everything, they don't have any other Urdu words or mix in them.
I understand.
Yeah, so it's pure Hindi.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's just one thing I wanted to correct in your Pushpanjali, was that you mentioned, and also I have to correct your mothers as well. You both mentioned that he told us to be like lions. He actually told us to be like lions and lionesses. So thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.